Good morning, everybody. Happy Canada Day for those of you listening that are in this amazing country. It's Friday, July 1st. Man, time's flying. So this morning's message was about habit loops. Okay, habit loops are, it's something that I've learned to implement as a replacement protocol. All right. So, as you guys have probably heard through previous messages and podcasts and videos, the key here is replacement. When we look at losing things, taking things out, those all have kind of a negative context to them. Replacement is it's a bartering system. It's trading one thing for something that's more valuable, for you at that moment or for that specific task or, renovation, portion of renovation, as I like to call it. So it's got more of a positive influence on it. So we're replacing things. So this habit loop, what we're doing is replacing one behavior with another by instantaneously just in the moment, switching it up. Our bodies, our neurochemistry, even our epigenetics, they can respond very quickly to, aggressive behavior, right? They've shown through, viruses and like acute circumstances, we can change your brain chemistry and our, neurology in these intense moments. If anybody's ever had like a life-threatening situation or been in situations like that, because I know myself personally, it's happened. There's things that have gone on in my head from my years in the military and fire service that's changed the way that I think and the way I respond to things, loud noises and this and that. So, those things, those behaviors, those reactions, those emotions, they can be triggered, but they can be not necessarily untriggered, because you can't, undo something when you're cut and it heals over. There's a scar there. You can't get rid of the scar, but the scar is there. So it's a way of kind of using that influence instead of negatively breaking us down in regards to PTSD and anxiety and things like that. Using it as a positive in terms of kind of modifying your behavior to something more favorable to your desired outcome. So that's the whole premise behind habit loop. So, in the message this morning, it was about if you feel like, eating out and it's not part of your meal plan, or it potentially could sabotage your results and put you behind the eight ball. Taking the money that you would spend on that meal and putting it into, a jar or some kind of special account, so that at the end of the month, as a reward for yourself, you go out and, buy something special or do something, do something cool with it. And what it does is it changes that feedback loop, but it also creates that whole, delayed gratification, which is what we're all having difficulty with. God, when I was a kid, I couldn't leave a store with an item. It would be stealing, right? We had layaway. We had to pay for it before we could physically walk out with it. Nowadays, you could get anything at any time instantaneously without even having the money in your account for it. And, these behaviors, these instant returns, these gratifications, they're weakening our resolve, and it's preventing us from, putting the work in necessary to achieve something. And I see it all the time. One of the main examples is through weight loss. People treat their body and neglect their health. They treat their body deplorably, and then they neglect their health and expect it to be turned around in, a month, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And not fixate on the permanence and the maintenance behavior, right? It's an impulse thing, and we're very, very impulsive, and that's where I continually refer to the term consumer versus purchaser, right? A purchaser is an impulsive. A purchaser is someone who's researched and looked at something and enters a store because the store may have the item that they're looking for. Whereas a consumer is someone that goes in looking for something. They don't know what they're looking for, but when they see something that appeals to them, they'll purchase it. And they may have regret after doing so because it might not be the best choice, or even fit within their budget. So anyway, I digress. But that's the whole premise behind this habit loop. Delayed gratification, supporting that habit, right? By having that rest pause. There's a saying that logic exists between action and reaction. So by creating a bit of a pause between the action that's taken in your experience, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of responding immediately, waiting, right? Taking a couple breaths, and chances are you'll respond differently or react differently because of that pause in between. And that's where logic exists, being able to kind of calm the emotion down, feel the emotion. And you've heard me say this before: feel the emotion, let it wash over you, but let it wash over you first before you do anything about it. Don't do things in an emotional state, right? It will never end up the way that you want it to be. And this is something that we learn through our behaviors. And there's a reason why everybody's in this group. There's a reason why I started this business. The reason why I've been a coach for so long is because, again, I've been where you're at, and I've eaten emotionally. I became morbidly obese not because someone pumped me up with air. It's because I eat chips and chocolate and soda pop every single day, multiple times every single day, because I was dealing with my mother and father's separation. And it was a way of me coping with it. I've always worked. I've always been a hard worker. So I'd use my paper money, my babysitting money, my driveway shoveling money, my lawn mowing money, and I would buy these things. And these things made me feel, for the moment, they made me feel good because I could purchase them. It was my money. And, you get that endorphin release when you eat this food. But no different than, people that cause self-harm. Right? It gives them momentary release, but it gives them a long-term side effect. And this is it. Every time I ate, I had to deal with the consequences of gaining the weight. And then I dealt with the consequences of looking in the mirror, not liking myself, right? So it was like a cascading effect. But it was a coping mechanism. I was eating my emotions instead of feeding me so that I could handle my emotions, right? If you keep doing things when you're emotional, especially feeding yourself, right? You're feeding the emotion. And if I feed a stray cat, then it's going to keep coming back, right? But if I don't feed the stray cat, then the cat doesn't come back, right? So it's the same thing. If you can differentiate between you and your emotions, and instead of feeding the emotions, you feed you, or delay that gratification, and do something like put that money away somewhere else or replace that habit, then you'll find the rate of return is much less, and so the severity and frequency start to decline. And this is a big part of why we keep doing what we do. I mean, the healthy food is out there, the right food for you is there. Why we keep choosing not to do it is in large part due to our habits and our emotions. So if we can change our emotions, we can effectively influence our habit. And, leveraging your body is a huge, huge trigger point. So, going for a walk, taking that deep breath, you have what's called the vagus nerve. And, by taking deep breaths between emotional outbursts or incidents, you can change the way that your central nervous system reacts to those things. They see it in yoga, they see it in meditation. So taking a deep breath, going for a walk, there's things you could do. I know people that will do push-ups if they're if they're dealing with anxiety issues and things like this. They'll use their body, they'll leverage their body to get to their mind. And there's things called inflammatory cytokines, and they originate in the body and they originate in the mind. So, stress doesn't always originate. It doesn't always manifest itself in your head. It can manifest itself in your body, right? So your body gets fatigued, and something minuscule can set you off, right? And it's because your body's fatigued. It's not necessarily originating in the mind. And I see this with people with physical traumas, and work with them as well in regards to modifying their diet and lifestyle in order to accommodate these physical traumas. So we're all dealing with something. We all have something that is in our life, in our past, that has left these scars, that has done these things to us. And it's time that we use those not as a negative, but as a positive, because everybody knows that if a bone breaks, it's stronger at the origin of break if we allow it to heal. And I think a lot of us just aren't allowing it to heal. We're just covering it up, and we're not dealing with it. And it's not until we give it attention that it can heal. And this is where a lot of these eating issues and the inability to manage yourself is such a problem, right? Again, for me to forget to eat or not have an idea of what I'm going to be consuming today after 48 years of living on this earth and eating every single day that I've been alive, I mean, there's something intrinsically wrong about that. It means I'm avoiding something, or, my priorities are all messed up. But so these habit loops help, all right? So the first habit loop is delayed gratification, all right? What do you want most versus what you want now? The second is, the changing the loop itself. So, another example I used was if you have a partner, whether it's a romantic partner or work partner, before you say something that is negative or derogatory or, inflammatory, just do the opposite, just for shits and giggles, right? Someone's annoying you and maybe they're chewing out loud at the table. And instead of calling them on it and being kind of over aggressive, maybe compliment them on, the meal they maybe cooked for you or something that they're wearing. And you'll find that it changes the energy and allows, even some of the toughest conversations to be broached. When I was, as an employer, when I do, the quarterly reviews for my employees, I always lead off with the positive. There's always room for improvement. There's things that they need to do and change, but I lead off with the positive first to kind of get my foot in the door. So it gets them to listen to me, as opposed to, coming in right off the hop and say, listen, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. Their guard is up. They become resistant to the information that I'm putting out, right? It's a different energy. So that's one of the big things. And you could do that with yourself as well, in terms of your self-thought and the dialogue that you have with yourself. Before you tell yourself that, those pants make you look fat, compliment yourself on something. All right, just before you do that, even though that's still in there, the voices, the negatives, all that stuff, it's never going to go away, everybody. But what it does, it doesn't have to be front row center. It doesn't have to heckle you right from the front row center seat. You can put that all the way to the back of the auditorium, and it's there, but it's a whisper, and no one's paying attention to it, including yourself, because you can barely hear it. But it's always good to keep them and keep that voice. You never want that voice to go away, because it does serve a purpose. It's just we've given it too much of a purpose. And then the third is leverage your body, okay? So when you're in a shitty mood, sometimes going for a walk when you don't want to go for a walk. Some of the best workouts, best exercises are the ones or exercise sessions, and the walks that I do daily. I walk twice a day. Some of the best ones are the ones that I didn't want to go on, are the ones that, I'm in a shit mood. I just want to sit here and wallow in it. And, I dust myself off and I say, you know what? I'm not going to sit in this. I have to